Hi guys, this is Steve Moss, pastor at Boulevard Christian Church. God's mission for us here at Boulevard is really simple. We help people find Jesus and we help people follow Jesus. And our teaching team hopes that this message that you're about to listen to will help you learn to grow and trust Him more than before. If it does, would you consider giving a gift to Boulevard to help us carry out the mission that God has given us? Thanks. We hope your heart is fully open to what God has for you in this message today.
Good morning. It is so good to see all of you on this bright May sunny morning. I forgot what sun looked like over the last couple of weeks. I was looking for arcs in my neighborhood because of all the rain. I don't know about you guys. We used to have a swimming pool in our side yard, and we took it out a few years ago because all my swimming pool workers went off and got their own families, and no more slave laborers, free labor, so I had to do it myself, and I decided I didn't want to spend this much money or time on a pool. So, but in that area, we have a new pool now that's above ground that we can put an airboat in from all the rain that we've had, because the water just kind of stands there. I don't know why. Maybe it's an attraction from years past. Who knows exactly why on that. This morning, we have start a new series called Life Hacks. You know what a life hack is? Have you seen those commercials or things? It's just common sense solutions, simple solutions that combine methods that we may have known about or not known about, and we can apply them to problem solving, and we get a thing that happens pretty quickly. My grandfather, guy that worked in the oil fields all of his life, I mean from the 1920s on, one tough guy, but he could do anything with baling wire. You know what I'm talking about? So he had all this equipment kind of scattered around his house in Drumright where he lived, and he could go out, and if something didn't work, he could take a piece of baling wire and put a bumper back on and things like that. He'd say, "These plastic parts they're putting on cars these days just don't hang up. Now, a piece of baling wire, that'll last you a long time, James Frank. You need to listen to this, you know." And so I learned a lot of life hacks from him. The Bible has a whole book of life hacks. They're fun. They're short, pithy sayings. It's called Proverbs. How many of you have ever read Proverbs, okay? Written by what is purportedly to be the wisest person that's ever lived, a guy by the name of Solomon. And he recorded for us, he and some other writers also recorded for us a bunch of life hacks. And that's what our next series is all about. We are looking at ways in which we can gain some wisdom within our life. We're looking for some ways to apply some knowledge to fix some of the stupid things that we've done in our life. Now, you may not know this about me, but I have a PhD in stupidology. I have done stupid rather well down through my years in life, and for some reason or another, I seem to do stupid things, you know. I don't know about you. Well, I do know about some of you guys. And I don't know whether you have doctorate degrees, but you've got at least a bachelor's degree in stupid. How many of you would say you've done at least one stupid thing in your life? May I see your hands? Would you just say, "Right on, brother"? Would you say that? All right. All right, so all of us have done stupid things. As a matter of fact, some of us have carried backpacks along in our life filled with the stupid things, dumb things that we've done in our life. And the sad part of it is, for me anyway, is a lot of times I keep doing those stupid things over and over and over. We've all taken a foolish path. We paid some consequences for it. We found ourselves thinking or saying out loud, "Man, I've got to get smarter about this. I've got to get wiser next time. I should have cut up those 5 extra credit cards, you know, instead of maxing them out. I should have, counted to 300 before I began screaming at my teenager." You know, teenagers, you have to count a little further because the frustration fills up within your life. And, I'm going to be smarter next time. And so many of us have these huge backpacks of regret that we carry around with us. And most of us can look back over the course of our life and see a path that we chose that was foolish. And we've paid some huge consequences as a result of taking that path. Probably recognizing other people's stupid decisions is easier for us than recognizing our own. Can you say right on, brother, on that one too? All right, that's true. When it's up close and personal, the issues get a little foggy. Emotions cloud our vision. Circumstances pressure our thinking into making decisions that are not good. And the next thing we know, we've made some decisions that we regret. So if there's a tagline for this series that we're talking about today, it's this: learning how to make better decisions today so that we can have a better tomorrow. And the book of Proverbs, as I said, is God's gift to us on life hacks. This book is designed for us to be wiser the first time, wiser before the dismissal, wiser before the DUI, wiser before bankruptcy, wiser before the arrest, wiser before flunking out. And so this collection that God has given us of life hacks can help us from paying huge consequences in every arena of our life by prescribing for us a path of wisdom this time instead of next time. I want to make better decisions today so that I can have a better tomorrow. Can I get an amen on that? I mean, that's what we'd all love to be able to do. Unfortunately, we don't always do that. The main thing you need to know as we go into this series from Proverbs is that Proverbs is not a list of rigid rules for you to just follow blindly. Rather, Proverbs describes how God designed life to work. Think of it as a divinely guided common sense. One of the wisest men I ever knew was an old Illinois farmer when I preached in Illinois years ago. And he loved the book of Proverbs. Every year, he would read through the book of Proverbs. He'd take a month, and for whatever day of the week it was, he would read that particular proverb over and over and over. Now, when I knew him, I thought he was 130. He was probably 60 years old, you know. And but he would say, he would always be quoting different proverbs, you know, as he talked. Preacher, and he'd quote this proverb. And one day he said, you know, preacher, applying the book of Proverbs will make you a wiser feller. That's what it'll do, all right. It'll make you a wiser feller. And his example started me on a lifetime journey of every year reading through the book of Proverbs, one month out of the year, just taking it chapter by chapter, making notes in my journal and saying, gosh, I need to apply this in my life. So this morning, I want us to begin by looking at Proverbs chapter 3, verse 13, as we kind of start this series. It says this: blessed is the one who pursues what? Wisdom. You guys could say that a little more enthusiastically. Let's do that again. Blessed is the one who pursues wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For she, now you'll notice all through the book of Proverbs, Solomon and the other writers will personify Proverbs. It makes it into a female. He uses a female. I don't know whether that means that females are wiser than men, but we're not going to go there this morning, okay? But it says, for she is more, what's that next word? Profitable than silver and yields better than gold. What an investment to be able to invest Proverbs within our life. It comes back to, as we invest in applying the principles, the wisdom principles from Proverbs, it will come back to us in the form of an investment later on, a paycheck that we will receive later on in life. And so he says, she is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Now, those are the applications of the wisdom literature that Solomon has written. And so as we start this series, let me give you two big ideas that we're going to emphasize throughout this series. First one is this: wisdom must be pursued. Wisdom must be pursued. Gaining wisdom, investing yourself in wisdom is not a passive thing. You can't wait for it to kind of put this mist over you and it waft into your life. It's not going to happen that way. It doesn't happen as you wander aimlessly through life. You have to go after it. You pursue it. You chase after it. So the first thing we want to do as we go through this series on life hacks is know that wisdom must be pursued. Secondly, God's wisdom applied daily in a person's life will pay off. As Solomon says its wisdom is more profitable than silver and yields better than returns than gold. Man, wouldn't you love to have your retirement account do that? They would just return, investment upon investment, pay interest into your life. And so over the next 6 weeks, we'll dig into the book of wisdom and we'll explore some of the areas as we apply these situations in our own life. And I think they're going to pay off as a result within our life. Now, this morning, we're going to look at 3 different chairs and a fourth one, but 3 different chairs or attitudes in which people have within their life. And these attitudes will affect how we apply or how we receive Proverbs in our life, how we receive the life hacks within our life. Now, let me warn you up front. You ready for a warning? We're going to have another one at the end. These chairs and the attitudes and character that it represents is going to tick a lot of you off, all right? It's going to offend you, especially one particular chair. So I'm just warning you ahead of time. You know, if you need to get up and go to the bathroom, don't do it, all right? Stay here, endure the pain, and I think that God's going to be able to work some things within your life. So here's the first chair. The first chair is what we might call, what's what Proverbs call, simple chair. And it could be naive, or we might say clueless, one way or the other, all right? And those of us, I mean, all of us have sat in this chair at one time or another because it just simply means being naive or being simple. While we don't like to be called that, anybody like to be called naive? No, we don't, all right? We don't like to be called simple, but we've all sat in this chair. We've all been naive. It just means that we've lacked experience within our life. Isn't that correct? I mean, I raised 3 daughters, okay? And my daughters all thought that they knew better than mom and dad. You ever had children like that? Okay? Ever been a child like that? Yeah, I was. And so we think we know it all. The problem with the naive and the simple is that you don't know what you don't know. You know, you just think you know it, and because your parents say something or begin to talk to you about it, your first response is generally this. Now, I can't roll my eyes as well as my girls did when they were 13, 14, 16, 23 years old, okay? Naivety and being simple doesn't always go away once you reach a sophomore in college. It generally intensifies at that point because you gain just enough knowledge at that point that you really know it all, right? Anybody been there? Man, I was there for, anyway, we'll go on. There's just times that we think that we know all about it. Now, the biggest cure for the whole idea of naivety is to gain some life experience. And as you gain some life experience, then you begin to understand. But unfortunately, when you are naive, you don't know that you're naive. You sit in this chair and you believe that you know it all one way or the other. The naive person, as I said, learns to roll their eyes extremely well. They can, say, "Oh, Dad, you're just overreacting." If I had a dime for every time my 3 girls told me that, I could have paid for their college education, you know? Or else to say, nothing bad's going to happen. I mean, what do you think is going to happen, Dad? You think my car is going to break down? Is that why you're telling me to change my tire? I mean, I have a cell phone, Dad. That's later on. I have a cell phone. I can call you. No, that's not going to work. There's going to be a time where you can't call me. We had a kind of rule in our house for our 3 girls before they could drive is they had to be able to check the fluids in the car. You want me to get my hands dirty? I can't do that with white pants on. We have rags in the trunk, honey. It's okay. You want me to check and look at the gas gauge before I drive? Why would I want to do that? You always put gas in the car for me, you know? And there's all these things that we think that we know all about it, but we don't. Now, you want to know, for some teenagers that are here, I have more probably second service, You know why parents overreact? It's because we anticipate the future. We were in this chair a long time ago. And so we know that we're not being critical. It's just reality. You don't know what you don't know. You haven't faced enough consequences in your life. And so, of course, you can't factor in some of those experiences when you're on. Taylor Swift, I'd hate to quote her songs, but one of her songs several years ago that I actually liked, and it's amazing that I know the words to it too, but she said, when you are 15, somebody's going to tell you that they love you, and you're going to believe it. That's right. You're going to believe it. When you're young and you have somebody speak wisdom into your life, you think, gosh, why are they going over this? Nothing bad is going to happen. Don't you think I know what I'm doing? No, I don't think you know what you're doing, to be honest. Now, Proverbs tells us this. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 4 says these Proverbs, he says, can we have that next slide if we could? These Proverbs will give insight to the simple. We don't like that. Maybe naive's a better term. Maybe clueless is a good word. Will give insight to the simple and knowledge and discernment to the young. Wow. Now, what's the solution? The verse 5, the next verse that follows that says this, a wise man, let's go to the next slide if you would. A wise man will, what's that word? Hear and increase in learning. And a man of understanding or a person of understanding will acquire, boy, this is so important, will acquire wise counseling. I don't care how old you are. God doesn't care how old you are. A wise counselor is good for you. I am years old, and I still need wise counsel. I need people around me who are wise so that I can continue to get wiser within my life. It is so important. So the problem with the fool or the naive or the simple that we're going to put here is that they just lack experience. They lack understanding. And life will teach them some of those things as they go along, but you can stay in this chair too long. I know people who are 40s, 50s, 80 years old, and they still do not realize what they don't know. And they go right on making decisions without any type of counsel around them, and they make poor decision after poor decision after poor decision, and the result is tragedy within their own life. The second one, I'm going to sit down in this one because I've said a lot in this chair. It's the fool chair. Now, the difference between the fool and the naive or the simple is the fool knows the wider step to take, but he just doesn't care. Doesn't care at all. He may say to you, I've read the warning label, but I can handle it. I can handle it. And, you may say to the fool, you may be talking to him if you're a friend or something, you may say to them, if you continue going down this road, don't you know what's going to happen? Yeah, I know, but I don't care. I'll handle it when I get there. I'm okay. You just do your own thing. You stay away from me, and I know better. I know that I can do it. I just don't care about it. You may say to me, if you continue on this style of keeping your finances or doing your finances, you're into some big trouble later on down the road. And you can say, have you thought about that? And they'll say, yeah, I've thought about it, but I don't care. I'll handle it when I get there. I'll just deal with whatever happens. Didn't this happen in your first marriage and your second one and your third one? Yeah. Don't you see that you're following the same type of behavior patterns in your life? Yeah, but what? I don't care. It's my life. I'm going to live it the way I want to do it. This is the way I handle things. This is the way I do things. Again, this Solomon, who's purportedly the wisest man in the world, maybe the wealthiest man that's ever lived, and he wrote things down that 3,000 years later, we're still reading and contemplating and looking over. Probably none of us will write anything down that 3,000 years later people are going to read and write or look at and read one way or the other. But this is what he said, and this is what he wrote. And this is extreme, but he's making a point. You're not going to like this if you're sitting in the fool's chair. I don't like it, but I found it to be true. Here's what he says, Proverbs 26:11. He says, a dog returns to its vomit. You ever seen that? I have. Not a good sight. A dog returns to its vomit. He keeps, and then he goes on, Solomon goes on and says, a dog returns to his vomit, and what's that next word? Repeats, say it with me, repeats his foolishness. Now, if you're sitting in the fool's chair, you do stupid things, and you keep doing stupid things, and your deal is, I don't care, I'll handle it one way or the other. And you keep going back, and you do them over and over and over again. And it's like a dog going back to its vomit and eating its vomit over and over and over. You have the same thing happen to you, the same consequences, time and time again, but you don't seem to care whether or not you learn from it or not. There's another proverb, Proverbs chapter 10, verse 23 says this. Doing wrong is fun for a fool. Doing wrong or folly, developing wicked schemes is what some proverbs say this verse, is fun. It's a type of pleasure for it. And you'll find that a lot of people who are fools will continue to do the same thing over and over and over because they get a little pleasure in it. You may ask a friend of yours, why are you dating this guy? You know, he's been fired from his job at least 6 times that I know of, and he's living with his great-grandmother right now. Why are you doing that? Because he's so much fun. When I'm around him, it's just fun to be around him. But unfortunately, that funness is not a good place for you to be a part of during your lifetime. You'll say, didn't this happen to you in your first marriage? Yeah, but this guy's different. He's so much more fun. And a fool loves to do things, and they love to take pleasure in it one way or the other, and they believe that it's fun, but they keep returning to their vomit over and over and over again. Now, if you're sitting in the fool's chair, here's the problem. You will say to me, you'll say to someone who's talking into your life, it's my life, I'll do what I want. I'm not hurting anybody else. Is that true? Look what Proverbs says about this. Next verse. Can we go to the next verse? Walk with the wise, and you'll become a companion, become wise. But a companion of fools will do what? Suffer harm. When I was a teenager, I had a good friend, and he was fun to be with. He loved to work on cars. He was a genius in other areas of his life. Later on, he got a PhD in nuclear physics, okay? Smart guy. But he acted the fool quite often. His dad was pretty wealthy, but bought him car after car. He loved to redo the cars and make them even faster, and he loved to go do street dragging up in Tulsa. And several different times I was with him, and it was exhilarating for him to go to a Corvette when he had this 65 GTO, you know, and that he had souped up, and he beat everything around. And my dad kept saying to me, I wish you wouldn't go up to those areas. As a matter of fact, don't do it. And so he had decided that he was going to go out. There's an area in between Sapapa and Kiefer. We called it the Kiefer Straits that was about a mile long, and people would drag race on that area. And my dad said, don't go tonight. Well, I actually believed my dad and stayed home. Somebody else went with Ed, and Ed had a major flipped the car. The guy inside the car broke both legs, crushed ribs. Ed walked out of it without a single scratch on his body. The companion of fools will what? Suffer harm. And you hang around with the fool, you may have gone from naive to being a fool for a period of your time, but you've gotten a little wiser. You've changed some of your actions. You've decided, the fool says, I don't care. I'll handle it. But the problem is the companion of the fool is the one that suffers the harm. And you need to be wiser in your selection of friends, your selection of people who influence your life and how the courses and choices that you make within your life. Otherwise, you will suffer harm with it one way or the other. Now, the fool will say, that wasn't my intention. Wasn't my intention that somebody would get hurt. Of course not, but they're still hurt. I don't want someone to be harmed by my actions, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. And many of you in this room this morning are recovering from the consequences of having a parent who was a fool. And you're dealing with it still today. Chair number 3. This is the one that, as I describe it, I will get emails later on in the week, okay? Because this is the mocker. This is the scoffer. This is the one who says they know the difference between right and wrong. They know the wiser thing to do one way or another, but they do not only do they not care, but they also strike out and mock and scoff at everybody that tries to give them any type of wisdom on it. They will just absolutely go berserk on you. They are the ones who respond to every Facebook post, and they ramp it up several notches, just telling how stupid and evil somebody else is, and they just make it a bigger case than what was there to begin with. The mocker, when you sit in the seat of the mocker, not only do you know the right thing to do, but you don't care, and you're going to tear apart anybody else that doesn't agree with you. You're going to figure out a way to put down, sneer at, condemn, criticize everybody else. And oftentimes people who sit in this chair have been very successful people. They use their power, their money, their popularity, or their own mind that's pretty smart to be able to judge everybody else. They are judge, jury, and executioner. What do you do? They think they have the authority to be critical of. And generally what you hear, if you're a follower of Jesus, what you will hear from them is, you are a narrow-minded bigot, religious bigot. You are a danger to society because you have this particular viewpoint in your life. They have no room for any viewpoint except their own. And they want to express themselves loudly and will rant and rave and make fun of your desire to make any changes in your life at all. And they come off as the smartest person in the room, and they have an ability to control the room because their rhetoric just gets louder and louder and louder and tries to silence everybody else around them. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 7 says this: whoever corrects a mocker invites what? Invites what? You ever experienced that? Who's experienced that? That you have tried to correct somebody and they have just insulted you. Whoever rebukes a wicked man incurs abuse. Do not rebuke a mocker, for he will hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he will what? He'll love you. Now, you're probably thinking right now about someone that you know that sits in this chair. They don't listen. They're arrogant. They're abusive. They're argumentative. And when you bring up a different viewpoint, they pounce back and they attack. You cannot win with a mocker and a scoffer. And it's only when a bad tragedy comes that generally the fool and the mocker will consider doing any changes within their life. These are 3 characteristics, 3 attitudes that we all carry in our life. These are 3 ways of thinking of things. The naive, we can eventually get rid of that one way or the other because as we live a little bit longer, we gain some experience and we make some different decisions on it. But you've got to see this. There's a warning that Solomon gives to us. He points out that if we stay in one of these 3 chairs, and you just stay there, after a period of time, you get to the point where you do not even recognize wisdom at all. You reject it, and your paycheck will receive whatever seeds you have sown in your life. One immutable law of the universe is, whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. Some of you know that. Whatever a man sows, he's going to reap it within his life. The things that you keep doing in your life over and over again, that you practice attitudes, as you speak those out and you talk to other people, it's going to come back to you. Whatsoever a man sows, that he will also reap within our life. And so we know that. And the beginning of Proverbs, Solomon pictures wisdom as a woman walking through the streets of a village. And she, wisdom, is calling out. And she cries out in the square. And she says, "Who wants wisdom? Come and get it." Solomon says, "I have observed the naive. I have watched the fool. I've experienced the scoffer or the mocker. And here's what happens when you sit in one of these chairs too long." Proverbs chapter 1, verse 22 says this: "How long, O naive ones, will you love being simple-minded?" How long are you going to stay in that chair? How long will you not pursue wisdom from others? How long will you not learn from life experiences that keep happening over and over in your life? And he says, "How long, O scoffers, will you delight yourselves in scoffing?" How long are you going to stay in that seat and scoff and make fun of everybody else and mock them and hate them? You'll stay there until you shrivel up in your own selfishness. And then Solomon says, "How long, fools, will you hate knowledge?" I mean, how many do-overs do we get over and over again before we learn from them? How many tragic events must take place in somebody else's life because they're your companion before you take ownership of your own stuff? I mean, at some point in our life, we begin to see that there are consequences for our life choices, our attitudes. And those eggs get so scrambled up, and we want to unscramble the eggs, and we can't put them back in the shell. And we realize that we are all alone. And especially the scoffer at some point in the life, I've lived long enough to see the mockers mock and mock and mock and mock. And all of a sudden, they are all alone because nobody likes to be around them. No one wants to be around them. And they find that life is not working. Their grandkids don't even want to be around them. Nobody likes to be around them. And they go, "What in the world is happening? Why are they so ungrateful?" At some point, we realize that. Smart, educated, capable people in the midst of crisis can make the dumbest decisions. But we've sat in those chairs so long, we don't recognize wisdom when it's around us. So what am I to do? I've sown these seeds of just wanting what I want, not caring, mocking people. I'll handle it, thinking that I'm the smartest person in the room, and now I'm miserable. It is very difficult to get up from any of those chairs, any of those seats, because the nature of things is we are so consumed with ourselves that we don't want to change. We want everybody to change around us. We still say, "I don't want anybody telling me what to do." Proverbs chapter 1, verse 23 says this: "Come and listen to my counsel." This is wisdom talking. "I will share my heart with you and make you wise." Your heavenly Father says, if you'll quit trusting in your own heart and turn your attention towards me, listen to my counsel. I will share my heart with you. Your attention, hear me, your attention has to shift from the horizontal, where you're looking only at yourself, to the vertical. Attention from horizontal to the vertical. Attention means turning your face up. Attention means listening to God, listening to his counsel. Attention. And then a decision has to be made. The decision to step up and leave the chair. Stand up and leave the chair. The decision to say verbally to God, "You are in charge. You are God and I am not. You are smarter. You are wiser. You have more knowledge." Over and over again, you will hear this phrase in the book of Proverbs. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. He's not talking about necessarily being scared of God. He's saying respect for who he is, knowing that he is your creator, knowing that he is your redeemer. The fear of God is the beginning of, will you say it with me? Wisdom. Who would like some wisdom rather than naivety? Who would like to be wise instead of a fool? Who would like to be wise instead of being the mocker? I think we all would. It's the beginning of wisdom. It's the decision to stand up and confess, God, I have been so stupid. I'm naive. God, I'm a fool. I keep eating my own vomit. God, I've been a scoffer. A decision. Who's the boss in your life? Is the boss yourself? Is it me or God? Is the boss pleasing people or pleasing Jesus? Who's your leader? And finally, not only your attention has to shift, a decision to stand has to be made, there's a direction you must take. If Jesus is your leader, the decision I must go is the direction where he is going, where he leads. Not my direction, not your direction, but his. And Celebrate Recovery, Principle 5 says this: we voluntarily submit every change God wants to make in my life, and humbly ask him to remove my character defects. I voluntarily submit myself to God, to every change he wants to make in my life. No longer do I say, I know better. No longer say, I don't care. No longer we make fun of God. But I'm going to place my life in God's hands. I'm going to humbly ask him to remove my character defects. That sounds scary, doesn't it? It sounds a bit scary. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 33 says this: but he who listens to me, he's talking about wisdom, he who listens to wisdom shall live securely and will be at ease from the dread of evil. Standing up, changing your attention, changing your direction is a difficult road. Possibly. But this verse is saying that God says to you, to me, God says, pay attention to me, trust me, and you will be in good hands. Friends, a better tomorrow begins with a wise decision today to turn your attention away from yourself, to stand up, change the direction of your life. Father, would you pray with me right now? Father, we confess that we have depended on our own insights. We've hoped that would be enough. We confess that we've arrogantly resisted your wisdom. And Father, in this moment right now, help us to put away that thinking. Guide us, guide this body as we practice pursuing and paying attention to you. We ask for your divine wisdom to teach us. In the name of our leader, Jesus, we pray.